In today's video, I'm making my sun-dried tomatoes. Stay tuned in. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I make my sun-dried tomatoes without the sun. She finds this extremely funny. It's not that funny, but it's very, very easy. I have here is 1.5 kilos of really ripe, really juicy vine tomatoes, and I'm gonna dehydrate them in my Andrew James food dehydrator. Of course, if you don't have one of those things, you can easily do this in the oven. You'll have exactly the same effect, so it's basically not a problem at all. So first thing I'm gonna do, they're already been washed. I'm gonna quarter the little tomatoes. Hold on, let's put that out of the way. Quarter them up. Get my knife. Literally, they are perfect, just the perfect size for. So. And we're literally gonna cut them in the little quarters, which is perfect for to go in there. And I'm gonna do this with the rest of them now. Okay, so here we got our lovely tomatoes. One tip for you guys, if you do decide to do that, is to pick the most ripest tomatoes. Do not go for one of those plastic, I call them plastic looking ones, the one that actually barely red, because they will not taste good fresh, and they certainly will not taste good after we dehydrated them. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to sprinkle my tomatoes with a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. Don't forget, they are going to shrink quite a lot, so we're not really going to have a huge amount of that. Pepper. And I'm going to crush 5 cloves of garlic. I know it sounds quite a lot, but trust me. You don't have to if you don't like garlic, but for me, tomatoes, garlic, best thing. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is to mix them by hand. It's the best tool you have. So do make sure your hands are clean, obviously. So all I'm going to do, yeah, it's very funny again. I'm going to spread my tomatoes all over. It takes a little bit of patience, to be fair, but it's worth it in the end. So here we are. I've got 3 levels worth of tomatoes. I'm going to now put the lid on, turn it on, and I'm going to do this on 70 degrees Celsius, and I'm going to put the timer to about 8 hours. It all depends on the size of your tomatoes and, of course, on the temperature, but I'm using a 70. I have to count down, you see, from, bear with me. Okay, 8 hours, so I'm going to leave this there for 8 hours and we'll check them back on them then. Okay, it took me 12 hours to finally dehydrate the tomatoes to the stage that we want them to be at. Of course, the time I said depending on how big they are and how juicy they are. Clearly, those guys were rather juicy, so it took a little bit longer than expected. But we are basically the stage where they are perfectly dry, not totally dry. That would never be totally crispy and dry, but they have dehydrated to the stage of what looks like a sun-dried tomato. Next stage is for us guys is to have 1 or 2 jars depending. Make sure that the jars are sterilized and are 100% dry, because we don't want to mix any moisture with the olive oil. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put a bay leaf into the bottom of the jar. I think I'll probably put 1 in each. A dry one. I'm going to put a little amount of peppercorns. Okay. Don't forget the tomatoes already have garlic and a bit of salt. And I'm going to scoop those guys out. I did wash my hands, because when you do use any sort of preserves, you do have to make sure that all the equipment in your hands are really, really clean. Look at that, so we should have 2. They smell lovely. Okay, and I fill the other pot. You can store those guys in the fridge or outside the fridge with the lid closed for probably up to, I would say, 6 to 8 months. I kept them actually for longer and I haven't had any problems, but to be on the safe side, always go by the smell and by look, of course. And once you open them, you do have to keep them in the fridge. So here we are. So we have 2 little jars. Next thing, I've got olive oil. I've got extra virgin olive oil. Of course, when you produce something that you're going to be eating, trying to use the best you can afford, because in the end of the day it's going to affect the final result. So all we're going to do, we're going to pour the oil in the jars. Don't forget, because you can reuse this oil after you eat your tomatoes, you can use the oil to drizzle over the salads or anything else. Okay, so what we're going to do is just to make sure we do not have any air gaps in there. If you do, just use a bit of a spoon, move them around, make sure everything's coated and there's no air left. Okay. And put your lid on. And there we are, guys, we're literally ready to go. This is literally as simple as that. So if you enjoyed the recipe, don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe, and see you very soon. Bye bye.